أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today we are going to start a book, Please Mind Your Manners. It's a complete guide to modern manners. Be acknowledged, accepted, appreciated and remembered. It's written by a Pakistani writer, Faiz and it's a really good book. I got to know it and I really wanted to share it with you people. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. To the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the greatest teacher of mannerism. Prologue. Assalamu alaikum. Here is yet another book proving that Islam is not merely a religion but a deen, meaning a complete code of life that deals and provides guidance in every aspect of individual, and it actually provides a guidance in every aspect of an individual, family, organizational and communal life, including the art and science of manners. Although I have been touching upon various Islamic manners in my earlier work, there has been a great demand for a separate book on manners since 1999. After one of my seminars, a 17-year-old, very confident and cultured girl, hailing from a well-educated family with a lot of exposure and living experience in the US as well, walked up to me and said, "Mr. Faiz, throughout the seminar you have been telling us that it was Islam which taught civilization to the world. Then how come majority of Muslims are uncivilized?" She gave numerous examples to provide her point. I can still recall some of them. Not standing or waiting for turn in the queue, taking pleasure in visiting others without invitations or permission and feeling insulted if asked to call before coming, interrupting when someone is talking, shouting, yelling and screaming at home, expecting others to clean up their mess, not being gentle, kind and sympathetic to senior citizens, not even recognizing what to say to someone who has done some favor, like opening the door of a restaurant, etc. and etc. Littering public streets and properties, blocking streets for personal events, not being apologetic for causing inconvenience to others, talking against peers in their absence, and many others, including lack of table and dining manners. That was the first time someone had confronted me on this issue. Nevertheless, I smiled and told her that Islam had provided guidelines for everything she talked about. I asked her if she had studied Quran and Hadith. She replied in a no. Asked why, she said that no Muslim so far had been able to impress her enough to lead her to studying Islam. It was then that the idea of writing a book on manners first clicked in my mind. This is the author's statement. This book was originally scheduled for the year 2003. As I had some other topics which ranked higher in priority, but a recent incident that may seem insignificant to some of you forced me to advance its date. A few months ago, I was invited to speak to the management team of a large company. Among a group of about 50 senior managers, there were 4 expatriates. After my talk on managing change and its relevance to Islam, 3 expatriates and about 15 Pakistani managers came to me. They appreciated the talk. Waiting for the dinner that was to flow, we started talking about Islam in comparison with other civilizations. Surprisingly, everyone, including the expatriates, was very much receptive to whatever I said. In the meantime, the 4th expatriate, the CEO of the company, also joined us, and after listening to the last few sentences of my comment, said, "Faiz, Whatever you said right now and earlier in your talk made a lot of sense, but how many Muslims have the same understanding about your religion as you have? People believe in what they see, as you said in your speech. Actions speak louder than like Actions speak louder than words. I asked him as to what exactly did he mean by this. Before he could answer, the call for dinner came and he said, "We will talk about it later on." Within 5 minutes, we were in the dining hall, and to my surprise, rest of the participants of the talk had already crowded the food table without waiting for others. The CEO smiled and said, "Let's wait for this next about 15 minutes." The table was blocked. Even those who had their plates full would not move until another senior manager went to clear the table. While we were taking our serving, after noticing greasy table sheets spilled curry out of dishes, curry covered dish spoons, plates full of bones, etc., he smiled sarcastically and said, "What does your Islam say about this mess?" I gave a long answer. But that was the day the need for this book became dire. So embarrassing. He must be. You see, it is not Islam that is incomplete, but rather Muslims who are incomplete and ignorant of its true teachings. These incomplete Muslims are doing the worst damage to Islam. Non-Muslims look at them and form opinion about Islam and Muslims. It is even true for many by default Muslims who, instead of trying to learn the true Islam before forming any opinion, take a shortcut of looking at other Muslims, and whatever they see them doing, they believe it to be Islamic. Of course, this is not the right approach to learning about Islam. However, we cannot sidestep facts. Young generation is evaluating Islam through parents and relatives, friends, and other Muslims, and through comparing them with the civilized West. Thus, there lies a big responsibility on those who come across and claim to be Muslims, because the world is watching us. Very alarming situation, because the world is actually watching us. Unless we gave Muslim role models to our young generation, they would continue drawing towards West, considering them more civilized, as one person said to me. "If you think Islam is practical deen, show me a single Islamic nation that is cultured, educated, successful, and on top of everything." The point is simple, that if Islam is a complete code of life, the young generation wants to see a role model society or a nation which this system has created. A society that is more educated, cultured, civilized, successful, happy, and at peace than the West. I think we owe that to the young generation of the 21st century, a generation that is much more demanding and is more aware of other cultures and civilizations. Don't we know how Islam widely and quickly spread throughout the world in its earlier years? Could that tremendous success be achieved without giving role model individuals and society? Definitely not. Islam even gave the non-Muslim world role model Muslims and showed them how a Muslim person or a society looked like. So Islam spread across the world. Over a period, this situation has reversed, and instead non-Muslims have started giving Muslims role models. It is the same weapon Muslims used against them earlier. The weapon of knowledge, unfortunately, don't even become role models for their own children or other Muslims. How could they become ones for non Muslims? Most Muslims are considered dishonest, ill mannered, uneducated, ruthless warriors, corrupt, aggressive, indecent, and like, like exploitative. Take a detour of different Muslim nations and see for yourself what I mean. What is required today is much more than mere slogans if we are the best, as the Holy Quran points out. Ye are the best of peoples, involved for mankind. 3110. Let's not claim our superiority through force and aggression, but focus our energies on becoming the best. Let's create successful, happy, and peaceful leaders, organizations, institutions, and societies. Let's produce top level researchers, business leaders, political leaders, educationists, scientists, and social workers. Let the non-Muslim world struggle to find out the secret of our success. This is the only way of demonstrating the superiority of Islamic political, economic, educational, and social systems. This is the greatest service Islam has to do. Simply hating and chanting slogans against non-Muslims will not get Muslims anywhere. If Muslims fail to build up a model civilized society, other nations as well as the younger generations of Muslims will not consider Islam as more than a dogma. How could Muslims themselves forget the lessons they taught the world? God willing, I will touch upon this topic someday. Now, coming back to manners, when I undertook the task of looking at universal manners and finding their roots, I was delighted to discover as it reinforced my belief that Islam is a deen. That a significant majority of some, that is almost all within the expectations of a few, which are today considered Western-based, surfaced during Islamic Renaissance. If you do not believe, I will refer you to history to discover how savage people and societies were before the dawn of Islam and find out the source from where these manners emerged, if not from Islam. Yet it is so unfortunate that many do not either know or don't want to know this truth. Please mind your manners is an attempt to break this myth. It is a comparative study of universal manners, universally accepted manners of civilized people and societies. With the centuries-old teachings of Quran and Hadith, it groups universal manners under various headings and relates them to the Islamic teachings. Generally, it is considered that Islamic teachings are in contrast with Western civilization. This is another myth. This book will break. Truth is truth. Islam was called a complete deen, and the Quran, the final book, no real and right knowledge will go beyond. What is already in it? In becoming better individuals, organizations, and societies, man will never find out secrets of success other than what our Creator has already prescribed in the Quran and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught. Remember that no one else but the creator of a product knows how to use that product in the best possible manner. The same way the creator of this universe and everything in it knows its mechanics better than anyone else. If it was not true, Islam and its book could never have been called complete and the final. Let me make it a little easier for you to understand. Manners are a social science. Like any other social science, it is based on empirical research, meaning that it is not based on assumptions and hypothesis, but on doing and action research. In terms of manners, the best way would be asking people, what feels good to you? Why you like or are comfortable with someone? How do you want others to treat you? Based on answers to questions like these, conclusions are drawn and theory is formulated as to what is good or in demand. Now, let's take the other side of it. If you believe that this universe and all the creatures, including man, was created by Allah Ta'ala, you would also appreciate, as it is documented in Quran, that man can choose to control his body but not the soul, which is bound to do whatever its creator has programmed it to do. When you ask a person the question, he or she would delve into his or herself for answers. Now, whatever comes out will be from the soul, which is in its creator's control, and hence the answers. Most of the time, people don't want to get in touch with their true self. Allah has cautioned people in the Quran not to abandon observation, meditation, reflection, etc. A great way to get in touch with the truth. Do they not then earnestly seek to understand the Quran, or are their hearts locked up by them? 47:24. But most of the people do not seek this truth and live superficial lives. They do what they see others doing without knowing the truth and the price they pay for ducking it. This is the root cause of all the misery we see today in the societies. Therefore, almost all the guidelines listed here in this book are universal guidelines. Some of them might come to you as a surprise or in contrast with what you see the modern world practicing. The key word here is practicing. Yes, it could be true that in a few cases the West is practicing something different from what their educated people believe to be right and true. There may still be eyeing the best practice. What their educated people have discovered is yet to be practiced. Why? Because there could be some social, cultural, or even vested interests hindering them doing so. The same is true for a few other manners which they have not discovered yet, and what they are practicing seems in contradiction with Islamic manners. Take an example of one manner as listed in this book, that is, of not taking your clothes off in front of other people. Of course, in USA and Europe, people don't mind changing their clothes or visiting public places, etc., swimming pools, beaches, etc., while being underdressed. My answer to this is very simple. All the manners, or for that matter, anything of this civilized world that seems to be in contrast with Islamic teachings, is not final yet. Let the civilized world continue with its struggle to find the truth. This search for the best would continue as long as the world does not discover the best. And when finally the best is discovered, it is my faith that it would not be different from what was already there in Islam. People take time to change. There are many examples to prove it. There are many manners in this book that were never thought to be a part of universal manners 10, 20, 30, 40 or more years ago. They are now considered integral part of the universe. They're like the part of universal manners. Remember that Islam, Quran, and its teachings were not meant only for Muslims, but for the whole world, and anyone could benefit from them because Islam is a universal religion. Everything in it, including manners, would also be universal. This is no less than a message to all the world. 38:87. There is a difference between morals and manners. Morals are principles of right conduct, whereas manners are a way of behaving or conducting oneself in the society. Morals are principles and manners or practices, and there is a very fine line between the two. Take the example of not undressing in public. For Muslims, it is immoral as they are expected to stay covered. For many educated and refined Europeans and Americans, including many Baptists, it is not immoral, but they practice it as a manner. Their civilization has taught them that it does not look good to change in public. The practice, which is immoral for Muslims society or Muslim societies, is manners for the others. During my career, while reading about societies and observing people, I have discovered a very interesting phenomena that religiously performed manners by an individual, a family, or a society slowly and gradually become morals for the individual family or the society. For example, a few decades ago, in many civilized nations, it used to be a normal practice to throw garbage on streets. As do we initially, it started as a manner, and people were educated, encouraged, and appreciated for not littering the streets and public places. However, it was not considered morally wrong to do so. For that first generation, it would definitely have been a little tough. However, new generations, towing their parents and people around, started practicing this manner so religiously that gradually it became immoral. Now, if someone litters the public property, it considered morally corrupt, and there is a penalty for doing that. What they learned a few decades ago was delivered to Muslims more than 14 centuries ago. So there is a very thin line between manners and morals. Something that is considered morally wrong in one society could be considered being uncivilized in another, and maybe even being cultured in any other. So it all depends on how does a society compares with the rest of the world in civilization. So this end, although I have tried hard to keep morals out of this book, you might still come across a few guidelines you might take a moral and not manners. Now this is actually the what I've told you before about the we are discussing it, the prologue. Now, please read this book with an open heart and mind, and if there is something you get stuck with, get in touch with your true self, and you would know exactly what I meant. May Allah give everyone of us the courage and energy. Such a beautiful explanation by this writer. Okay, to strive hard to see the truth, to learn and understand the truth, to believe in truth, to act on truth, to say the truth, and to teach the truth. These were actually the important points. Inshallah. And this is from thank you and Allah Hafiz. Wassalam. Faiz H. Sayal. 7th Jamadul Akhir 1923 AH, August 18, 2002. A very beautiful book written by this author, and I really wanted to share it with you people. I got to I was going through some of the books, and I really liked this one, so I picked it up. And next time, inshallah ta'ala, we will start with the topic, and now we're going to do the acknowledgement, and we'll end our session today. I'm grateful to many people without whom I would never have the privilege of completing this project. This is from the author and narrator. All of my fans and clients for the encouragement and spark that ignited this work. My dear Father, for all the inspiration and spiritual support that I needed for this work. To my beloved wife, my son, I think his son's name was Haris, and my daughter Hannah, for their unprecedented support and tremendous sacrifices for allowing me to complete this work, and the whole publishing team, including Uzma Wakar, Asim Waris, and Salim, for meeting tight deadlines throughout the different stages during the production of this book. It was the acknowledgement, and as I already told you before, the name is Please Mind Your Manners, a complete guide to modern manners. Be acknowledged, accepted, appreciated, and remembered. Faiz Exile. And this was about the author and prologue. The prologue was why manners matter, and we actually read, or we did some introduction about it. And now the part 1, manners at home, chapter 1, self matters, and that we are inshallah going to do in our next session. And keep waiting, and say a lot of du'as for me. So inshallah, for